I hope some of you are feeling excited this season because there is a lot of positive news in the horizon as we go into 2024. And this is the first time in a long time where anybody's saying anything positive, or at least talking about interest rates going down. You see, this is the third time Bank of Canada has held interest rates. And we also started to see mortgage providers offering 4.99% fixed insured mortgage rate. So with that, I want to answer the question a lot of people ask me, do I think interest rates are going to go down in 2024? Well, we're going to talk about that right now. So social media, news articles, and a lot of people are talking about all the indicators that are pointing towards interest rates going down. And people are speculating differently on how that's going to look. What the big discussion seems to be around is how long is it going to take for interest rates to come down? And if they are, why? People are talking about several things such as inflation rate, gasoline prices, US market, immigration, Canadian bond yields, and that this is pointing in the direction for fixed rate mortgages. Why does any of this mean anything? Well, I want to put some of this into context for you. Let's start off first with the Bank of Canada, because contrary to popular belief, the Bank of Canada is not there to punish us. The Bank of Canada is trying to control inflation rates, but they actually want to aim towards having a neutral rate. A neutral rate being whatever inflation is at, the Bank of Canada wants to be at. So as of October, we are at an inflation rate of about 3%. Bank of Canada would want to, in a normal economy, be at about 3%. But the reason they're at 5 is because they want to continue to have inflation rates go down. But as it goes down even further, Bank of Canada is going to have to start reeling it in because they do not want to be overly restrictive. Now, you might also be reading articles that talk about how high interest rates are one of the biggest contributors to rising shelter costs. And shelter costs is one of the biggest contributors to inflation. And you might be thinking, well, Bank of Canada is raising interest rates. Why is it then that they're saying they're trying to control inflation when they are actually affecting inflation in the opposite way? Well, this is because there's a long-term plan. The science basically says that if you want to control inflation, you have to raise interest rates, and this will help the economy in the long term. You see, short term, we're going to see people having trouble and the cost of this affecting inflation the longest. But we have to go through an 18-month cycle on average in order to see some stabilizing effects of these changes, which is what's happening now. Well, let's now look at our neighbor down south and see what's happening with the US. You see, the US lowered interest rates, and we start to see some of the effects of that trickle over here. And if you look at the historical data, it does indicate to us that Canada tends to follow suit with what happens in the US. Now, in the US market, what we see from peak inflation rates to when there is a significant drop in the interest rates tends to be on an average of 7 months. And Canada should also see something similar in a staggered manner. So from peak to drop for us should land us in April. And this is why a lot of people who are speculating are seeing that the next time we're going to see rate cuts is going to be in April. Inflation rate projections are looking to be at 2% or in and around there mid-summer. And if that happens, Bank of Canada cannot stay at 3 points above the interest rate. And further to that, as inflation starts to decline, we're going to see unemployment go up. We should start seeing Bank of Canada dropping interest rates. And this is why a lot of speculators are saying Bank of Canada is going to probably drop it sooner than expected. Because if you have too much of the delta, the economy is going to need to be stimulated. In order to stimulate the economy, Bank of Canada is going to drop interest rates. Now, a lot of mortgage providers are talking about Canadian bond yields and how fixed rate mortgages will follow bond yields. Now, yes, that is true. If you look at the data, it will indicate that as bond yields go up, so do fixed rate mortgages. But now we're starting to see bond yields plummet. They're going down, and they're going down at a staggering amount. Why is it then that fixed rates aren't going down as quickly? Well, because when fixed rate mortgages will go up as bond yields rise, they take the elevator, the saying goes, and when they come down, they kind of take the stairs. So they're going to go down slowly because there are corrections that need to take place. Now, why are people talking about gasoline prices affecting inflation, affecting interest rates? This is an adjustment period. No one can ever say that there's no demand from oil. Literally everything requires oil. That's actually what leads the economies and how inflation is affected. Construction, materials, go to work, go do anything. It doesn't really matter. It relies on oil. And right now, oil is getting cheaper. And guess what? If you bring down oil prices, what do you think is going to get cheaper? Food will get cheaper. Groceries will get cheaper. How many people are talking about how all that stuff is affecting their lives? Rents are more expensive right now, but as oil starts to decline, statistically speaking, inflation will also go down, and so will interest rates, and money becomes a little bit cheaper. Affordability gets resolved a little bit more. Now, what are some of the extrinsic variables that we can also consider? Well, in Canada, we know we have booming immigration, and whether or not people will admit it, we have 1 million people coming in every year. A lot of people are releasing articles where they're saying that the Canadian economy is in decay, and because of that, there's a high likelihood we might see a bounce back of the real estate market because they are going to be forced to drop interest rates a lot more significantly. A soft landing is when interest rates come down slowly in a controlled manner, and this is what is supposed to happen. This is a healthy way for an economy to recover. Now, if you have a hard landing, it means we're gonna go from 5% all the way back down to 3% kind of suddenly, and that won't be good for the long-term prospects. There are other factors that might help to stabilize things, where Canada is putting things into place like having extended amortization periods to prevent people from losing their homes, where they're also making the qualification criteria a little bit easier for people who have to renew. The general outlook is that one way or the other, things are going to improve. There's a natural tension, and we haven't even started talking about the fact that elections are going to be coming up, and they're going to want to sway people for votes. And in order to do that, they're going to have to promise or start fixing things. You got to ask yourself, would you vote for Trudeau if he promises to massively correct a lot of things that are wrong in the economy? And that becomes questionable if your livelihood is on the line or strongly tied to a market that is right now stagnating or making you suffer. When it's either do or die, people tend to make things work. So in this case, the country isn't going to collapse, and things have to now start getting better. So this is what I think about the way things are going to look in 2024. The tension is going to pull us in a positive trajectory, at least when it comes to where interest rates are likely going to go. And this means that there's going to be opportunity for you to capitalize, make some money, or recover if you had a hard time in 2023. Again, I hope you guys have a warm holidays. There are some positive things to look forward to. So pay attention, be educated, learn what you need to make educated decisions as a real estate investor this upcoming year.